Guys, what's going on? It's 8 o'clock on the East Coast. That means it's time for Proper Royals Live. We got a banging show tonight. We got Gen Z Reptiles. Jace and Josh will be joining us. They're out of Iowa, I think Cedar Rapids, if I'm not mistaken, but for sure Iowa. If you've not met these guys, they're making a lot of waves, both in the snakes and the animals themselves, really impressively. But I really think that we'll see them for a long time, and they've already got a lot of insight. The Gen Z Reptile name couldn't be more apropos because both generationally and age-wise, that is the generation. But the insights that they're going to be able to give to that generation of buyers, they're whether guys like me, the last of the Gen Xers, want to admit it or not, the guys in Gen Z are making their own money these days. They got careers. They're buying houses. They're buying luxury goods, and they're buying expensive snakes, man. So they're our customers, and I think it's important that we always keep that up. Plus, they're cool dudes. They've been on the show before, and I'm looking forward to having them back. We've got a lot of ground to cover because a lot has changed in their world, hell, in the world in general, but in their world since they were on. I promised you last week, I teased it, a big announcement. It's coming. It's here. It's going to happen in this show before I bring on Jason Josh. So let's get to some announcements. It's actually hidden under the square of my picture. As soon as there's two of us, there's just going to be boom. You're going to see the announcement. So we'll work that in. I just got the final email on that at 6:10 tonight. So I'm pretty excited about it. You've probably seen me beaming. I'm pumped about this. It's a big deal. I'll tell you about it. We're going to talk about the market, but I got to say, sales have been going pretty well. Thank you to everybody that has purchased from me. I really appreciate you. We'll talk about it more on the market. I just want, or on the show with Jason Josh tonight from Gen Z Reptiles. But I am always updating my Morph Market account with accurate inventory, and I have new inventory this time of year coming available. I wouldn't say daily, but regularly, as the animals get enough meals in them and as I figure out what I'm going to keep and what I'm going to sell. Also on Instagram, it's hard to, I want to talk about this with these guys too. I find it very difficult to safely advertise on Instagram without getting, the community strikes against you. But if you see a snake on Instagram, you might check with me if it's available. Also, email me, properroyals@gmail.com. My contact information is down below in the description, but properroyals@gmail.com. I send a monthly inventory list of available animals. Direct me to you. You don't have to worry about Morph Market or anybody else. You get it first. No obligation. Doesn't cost you anything. Just send me your email address. Let's see. Specifically, I got some female het clowns coming up. They're not going to be high dollar animals. A pastel enchi and a normal female het clown. If you want to get started on your clown project and hets are where your budget's at, let me know. I'll talk to you on that. If I miss you in the comments, get me on Instagram or on Gmail. As a one-man show producer, host, and content writer, I can't keep an eye on the comments here, the screen here, and the camera there. But I will keep an eye on those comments once the guys come on. I met with an app developer yesterday. Really, really cool experience. He asked me to do some consulting on ball python related topics and development. I can't say anything more about it. I'm not going to. I have no idea if it'll come to fruition or not. Just a really cool experience and a cool validation that somebody would reach out to me for my input on their app development. I'll let that be. If that grows, though, it could be something pretty cool, and I certainly intend to be a part of it. If so, I'll let you know. New video coming out tomorrow. That'll be up on YouTube, full-length traditional video. I got to give a special shout-out to Chuck and Anna. Chuck and Anna Chuck bought an Enchi clown for his wife, Anna. She's always wanted to have a clown project. They bought a female Enchi clown from me, and he surprised her a little bit. She knew it was coming. She didn't know when it was coming. She thought it was still on a payment plan and that stuff. And boom, there it was today. I'm really, really, really pleased for Chuck and Anna in Pennsylvania out there. Check out Lady Tiz Exotics, Lady Tiz Reptiles, Lady Tiz, you know Lady Tiz, Nicole Tisdale. She had me on her Saturday podcast this week. It was a real joy to work with her. What a bright, just really, really special person in our industry. She's doing a walk for Susan G. Komen, breast cancer fundraiser. She's going to walk 60 miles in 3 days in San Diego. I have to put her link up. You know, I'm going to do it on Instagram, I think. Anyhow, support her if you wouldn't mind. Those of y'all that don't know, I lost my mother to cancer 12 years ago. And I think it's pretty special when people volunteer, set aside their own time to help another cause. So Nicole, one of our sisters in the industry, let's give her that support and that love. It's a crazy week in Jacksonville. It's Florida, Georgia weekend. Those of y'all that aren't from the South and the SEC, we got these schools called the University of Florida, which I did go to, the Fighting Gators, you know. And every year in Jacksonville, we play the University of Georgia Bulldogs. I have great disdain for that team, but I do respect them. I don't hate them. I like them better than most other teams out there. We probably ain't going to fare very well this year, but this weekend is a huge party weekend in Jacksonville. If you're going to be in town, I will be playing live music at Finn McCool's Irish Pub on Friday night, 8 p.m. to 11. And then in Atlantic Beach, Jacks Beach, Florida, there is an Irish pub called the Fly's Tie, one of the very best Irish pubs around, and that's really kind of where I cut my teeth. I will be back with Spade McQuaid and the All-Stars is the name of the band. I'll be there 10 p.m. start time till 2 a.m. on Florida, Georgia, Saturday night. After the game, when you head back to the beach, come on up to Atlantic Beach and the Fly's Tie Irish Pub. Spade McQuaid show. I'm pumped. It's an exciting week. And we got a good show tonight. And this announcement, I promised you there'd be an announcement. There's 34 of you. You guys are going to hear it first. Lady Tiz Exotics. I got it right. I'm sorry, Nicole. There we go. Hey to everybody in the chat. I really appreciate y'all being here. I'm not great with all the shout outs, but Tamithus Reptiles, I don't think I've seen you before. Thank you for being here. I see a lot of other familiar faces that I'm grateful for. Jennifer Frenzel, good to see you. Thank you for being here. I'm trying to see new names. I get caught up in this. Let's let this go. All right, so this announcement, I promised you, I have been working behind the scenes really with the pedal down lately. I had accumulated some ideas and some business directions that I wanted to try out and pursue when the time is right. And what happens, the time is never right. And the time just goes by and things don't get done. But I got a little kick in the pants in my career work a couple of weeks ago. And I said, you know what, between now and the end of the year, I want to see what I can get done. All these ideas that I've been kicking around and thinking would be neat and that sort of thing. Let's get something done. And one of them was that I wanted to find a way to really, truly pass on value to my customers. And right now, especially over the past year and a half, shipping has gone through the roof. Thankfully, there's a bit of a shipping war going on. That's always good for the customer. That's good for the consumer when competition happens. And there's a new player in the game. The new player is Redline Shipping. It was started by Robin Markland. I could do a whole show on Robin's background, but they're making waves. If you've noticed of any Canova videos lately, Justin is all of a sudden now sponsored by Ship Your Reptiles. That'll be the last that I mention that company name because I am now officially a Redline Shipping advertiser partner. And because of that, I get outstanding rates that I can pass on to you all when you buy snakes from me. It will be cheaper to get an animal from me to you because of this relationship with Redline Shipping. Furthermore, you're about to see there's a promo code that is Proper5. That's me, Proper Royals, Proper5. You could use it and get $5 off of shipping the next shipping order that you place with Redline. This part is not transactional. This part is not part of the promo arrangement. I used Redline. I'll tell you how this came to be. I used Redline because they had a really aggressive promo code when they rolled out on Morph Market. So, I mean, I was interested. I'm always up for saving a buck. I like that their site actually works. I don't know if it's just because I'm a Mac user or I'm trying to use it on Safari and it doesn't work very well. The other companies are just clunky. They don't save my addresses. I have to retype things every time. Redline, it works very smoothly. Their out of the gate pricing is better. Those other companies make you work up to that discounted pricing. Redline gives it to you right out of the gate. I don't know how long they'll do that. I can't commit to that being permanent, but right now it's fantastic. The other thing I like is their live reptile, live animal insurance is much easier to use. It's much easier, much more affordable than the competition. I don't know enough about their, actuarial charts and how they figured out their insurance rates. And thankfully, I've never had to put it to use, but I can tell you it's a whole lot easier and more cost-effective to insure animals now with Redline shipping. Those are just my personal impressions. I got that email getting a deal done at 6:10 tonight. So I haven't even reviewed everything on it. But that's the announcement. You'll see Redline branding on most of what I do. They have been very gracious with the rate that they give me that I can pass on to you all. That doesn't equal any money in my pocket until I deliver great animals to you all and to my buyers. So it's really about what you all have created with this community. You gave me the leverage to go to them and say, you want me advertising. You want to reach my consumers. So try the Proper 5 promo code. It'll be on the screen all night. You don't have to memorize it. I'm sure I'm going to plaster it all over the place. You'll see it plenty. Redline shipping. So huge thanks to Robin. And there's a sales lead there named Judy. Clothier is her last name. Judy's been great to work with. She's been the go-between between me and Robin. Huge thanks to Redline Shipping, Robin, and Judy. Tonight, we got Gen Z Reptiles. There are 47 of you all in here at 8:13, 12 minutes in. This is cool. Thank you all for being here. I just want to say thanks to Jace and Josh. Jace is going to kick off. No, Josh just pulled up. Like literally just boom. Like anyway, I'll let them tell the story. Nobody else could see it, but I could see it. Jace and Josh are here. Gen Z Reptiles, the name is kind of self-explanatory. These are some young bucks coming up. Aside from their age, I don't care to talk about their age all night. They have accomplished a whole lot in this industry. And we're just going to get right to it. I don't think we need to, this is the show. This is the content. I don't need to do this without them. So welcome back to the Proper Royal stage for the second time. Thankful to have these young gentlemen, Josh and Jace from Cedar Rapids, I believe, Iowa for sure. Gen Z Reptiles. Here we go. Good evening, guys. How are you?
Guys, how is everyone doing? Just got in here at a perfect time, apparently. So
he literally just walked in the door. He came back from work. So
I had looked down at the screen and I was like, "There's one," and then I got going on my little intro promo, and I was like, "There's two." There we are. We got it. We're good.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
I just want to say really quick, congrats on the partnership with Redline. That's awesome. Little connection to us. Our sponsor channel for the past couple of months was JD Constriction. So John Daig, and he is associated with the Redline company. He's had a lot of input on the interface there. So he's definitely a person to thank for how streamlined the process is for that. Definitely a lot of improvements for it being a brand new company. So
yeah, I agree. And like I say, I mean, the beauty of this for me is that I was using them before we reached out to each other. I tried, again, I admit it, I used the really aggressive coupon code on Morph Market, 6 weeks ago. And I was like, this works how it's supposed to. The next time I logged in, I already had an account. The next time I logged in, it already knew where my home address was. And I'm like, this isn't that hard. I mean, I'm not a computer programmer, but I don't think it's that hard, right? Like, so anyhow, I'm real happy to see it. I do think that there is real value whenever there is heavy competition, and the shipping war will do nothing but help consumers and help our industry. It's prohibitive. I verbally pitch, het clowns now because it's prohibitive to put them on Morph Market. Who's going to pay $80 to ship a het clown that's $100? It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
some of that relies on FedEx. Some of that relies on the shipping companies that we partner with, figuring out how to be more efficient, bring more value, operate on slimmer margins like a lot of us have to do in our everyday lives when things get expensive. So I think it's really, really cool. So enough about shipping. I didn't have you guys on to talk shipping, man. So congratulations. We were talking a little bit of off air, but you guys have blown up. I mean, you were already blowing up when you were on in January, but you guys have, especially on Instagram, but have just blown up since the last time you were here. For people that haven't met you, tell us about yourselves. Give us the quick intro.
Yeah, so we're brothers, and we started this company. It's been 3 years now. Prior to that, I had been keeping as a hobbyist since I was 9 years old, and Josh was on and off while I was at home, hanging out with the reptiles in the reptile room. When I got back from college, Josh really jumped in, became an investor in the business, and then he just got really involved with everything. So he took my longtime hobby, and together we made it into a business that we feel is pretty successful at this point in time. Grown a lot in many different aspects, learned a lot about ourselves, the industry, and how to run a business.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So we're 50-50 partners. Jace, early on, pretty much ran everything. I was just an investor, but now I do take half the work.
He does. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So do you guys have any employees? Is it just you all doing the top to bottom, the cleaning, the breeding, the marketing, the selling?
We're doing it all. We had tossed around the idea of what it could look like with an employee. And when it just kind of came down to numbers, we weren't ready to make that jump. We figured we could just handle what we have going. And it's probably for the best for us to just handle what we have going between the two of us. We did really make a lot of more things in our process more efficient by having us both work on cleaning at the same time. I'm getting a flow down with that. So
there you go.
Yeah, so we've been working at that.
That's something I talk about a lot is systems and processes. How are you going to do efficient work as quickly as possible? I mean, just where your time goes is the most really important, valuable thing when there's a limited number of time and minutes in the day. So, I mean, it's vitally important. Are you all still students at school, or are you done with school, or are you doing this full time?
Yeah, I graduated last year, and I'm working a full-time sales job. And then
so Josh graduated from high school last year. So sorry. he's a real young pup. I went through college. I was 5 years in undergrad. I graduated from that back in 2019 and moved back to my hometown. So
okay, cool.
I'm done with school. Both of us are working outside of snakes, and snakes is our glorified hobby / awesome small business. That's
a big side hustle, man. You guys are doing it right. I'm amazed. I'm impressed. You guys are working outside of the snakes too, because your presence is huge right now.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's a lot of factors involved, and I think it's just not consistent enough income for us to both feel comfortable moving away from our jobs at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, we're still so young. Like, I don't know. For me, it's like, why stop now? I feel like part of the grind is like motivating for me. It keeps me going every day. I don't want to get complacent just doing one thing.
Right. Yeah, and there are different life stages. I get that. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing from a young age it wasn't the dream to have a ball python business, and maybe it was. I mean,
it was for me.
Okay, that's cool.
Me personally, but I'm going along with it.
As a guy that's 42 and put 26 years now into my career, I'm going, if I had the presence you guys did, I wouldn't be doing anything else. I'd be done. Sign it, check it, clock out for the last time ever, last paycheck, sayonara for me, man. But that's the perception from the outside. We all have, I'm sure that people go, oh, man, Adam's doing this crazy stuff. Yeah, Adam's still like running into the house to tell my wife when I sell $100 snake. Like, it ain't like I'm buying Lamborghinis with snake money, you know? So there is the grind behind the scenes. There's a drive of what we don't show, what people don't know about outwardly. So Well, that's cool. So when I say you've blown up, like Instagram blowing up is one thing. We're coming up on 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, I think. But
That's correct.
And that's another thing. I mean, there's a skill to marketing and there's a skill to accumulating those kinds of followers. But I mean, you guys are on the panel at Animal Con, right? And then I see you at all the major shows. So I mean, your presence is being. You're not just figuring algorithms out. Like, you're doing the actual thing is what I'm really impressed with, and I want to make sure everybody values that as well, in my opinion, anyhow. So talk some about that. What came first? Which or did it both sort of elevate organically together?
So our first reasoning for posting on social media is obviously to get ourselves out there, make sure we're trustworthy. And at this point, like you said, we are showing up at all these events. We're going to shows, all that good stuff. So we really want to connect our faces
to our brand.
Yeah. We want to shake hands with people. We want to network with people in person. And there's just no way that you could possibly – I feel like the connection is just a lot better person to person. Whereas when you're texting people over the screen, you can just never get quite a genuine connection. So.
Yeah, so the connection is definitely a lot better in person. And to kind of go back to the question, did those grow organically together? I would say to a certain extent, yes. We put a lot of really hard work in, especially during the pandemic when nobody could go anywhere or do anything. We worked really, really hard at the social media. And to be completely open and honest, part of it was us trying to figure out the algorithm.
Yeah.
Hit that a couple times, and that was super helpful. But another thing that I think served us super well is how consistent we were. Josh, I would say, is definitely the main driving force behind that. He has this incredible discipline that I don't know if I'll ever even be able to get to that level, because he's just on a whole nother level. It's just in his nature. For me, I'm more of a creative type. So I think together we worked well to kind of produce content on a consistent basis that's hopefully interesting to people. That being said, our numbers from social media did help us when we got out to the shows, when we started tagging people in pictures we would take or videos that we would do featuring them. They'd go back and see our numbers, and people, they treat you a little bit differently because they see that you're in it.
They do. Yeah, I can empathize with that. We were talking a little bit off air. Several really gracious people have welcomed me into sort of a circle that I always wanted to see inside from a ball python standpoint. And then once I was sort of invited in, I felt like almost like an imposter once I was in there. And that's just part of the growth and understanding. And there's many situations in life that are similar to that. But you're right. You do get, and I'm sure more so for you all, but like I say, there's been some really gracious folks that have made me feel that way also. Before we dive to, because I do want to talk about that strategy, I want to talk about that consistency, and there's a couple things I don't understand from what I've seen outwardly, so I wanted to ask you about that as well. Before we get there, give us some general. We all like stats. What are your what's kind of your breeding stock size? What's the volume you're dealing in? And snakes? What's your give us the geeky stuff about what we all want to know about each other. If you got something you want to flex on, feel free, go for it.
Sure. So I'll start off by saying that we've fluctuated significantly since we've talked last. Obviously, everybody goes through it with the breeding season. You have a bunch of baby snakes, and then you go back down. We've also made some decisions to really try to refine our breeding stock. And so that has changed the number of snakes that we have, but hopefully that gave you enough time to think on numbers.
Yeah. So last season we paired 40 adult females, ended up with 30 clutches. Going forward to this season, we're probably looking at, maybe 25 adult females. So quite the drop. We sold quite a few adult females, but we can say for sure that the projects that we're going to be pairing are going to be a lot more high-end stuff. Hopefully minimize the amount of non-recessive projects that we're going to be hitting.
Yep. And so a little bit back to this season, our average clutch size is about 6 per clutch. So just to estimate, we had about 180 babies hatch out. Of those, we had some decent sales throughout the year, but those were kind of like cherry-picked sales. We ended up doing some group packages and stuff like that. So That was kind of just the nature of the market this year, I believe. And probably our least expensive snake that we produced was
like
a pastel that went to wholesale, and our most expensive snake, GHI Desert Ghost female, probably that's a holdback for us. So yeah, so she's pretty cool, a really cool snake actually.
Yeah, we're trying to close the gap between hitting a $4,000 snake and a $50 snake.
Yeah, and we decided that for our operation, it just makes most sense to try to get those higher value per clutch. And I know a lot of people are in that same mindset, but there's opportunities, I think, all along the spectrum for different.
I was going to say, I think the goal is that, but I think your excuse me, something that Stephen and Courtney and I from Leviathan Snakes talk about a lot is, for me, I don't know because I've never done it, but my thought is, if I invested all the money and time necessary to produce a $10,000 snake out of the gate, but nobody knows who I am, I don't know how readily people are going to, I mean, that trust, that brand, you used the word trust earlier, Josh. I think that's got to be there. I think that's the social equity sort of part of it component that we're putting in and that we're doing right now. And I say we, I mean me as a company, but you all of us together in this room. I think most of the regulars in here would buy off of each other with no sweat, second thought, because we've built a community. I mean, I bet of the 50 people in here, 40 of us all know each other through this room. We don't know each other outside of the room, but we know each other through the room, you know? So I think that social equity and trust that you talk about is important too, especially when you're trying to move toward that higher end consolidation and refinement that you're talking about.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And the thing is, we started 3 years ago hitting the same stuff, lower end stuff, and we consistently progress our projects. We reinvest the profits from a $50 animal, a $300 animal, and we're just trying to constantly upgrade. And as we're doing that, we're marketing, building up a brand, connecting with other people. And I think that's a great way to go. You learn through practicing, and I feel like that process will allow you to grow at a good pace.
Well, and then also when it comes down to the understanding of the breeding cycle, it's not as simple as just putting them together. There's things that you learn to watch out for.
Right.
There are aspects of it that you learn you have to really watch out for. And then the whole egg incubation process is a big deal. So if you're starting out with a clutch that could be worth $25,000, or what Miguel's hitting, $100,000 clutch. Like if you're starting out at that level, there's a lot on the line. And if you have one little mistake, you're pretty screwed. Whereas if it's with a lower end, this might sound bad. If it's a lower end, there's less at stake financially.
Right. Yeah. Obviously we want to care for every animal, and I'm not going to speak for other people, but I could say under oath and on my family, I've never culled an animal. I've never, I've always found a home for all of my animals, normal to, this year, leopard orange dream pie, fantastic. But regardless of their value, I mean, they have value as animals, but regardless of their financial value, the other thing I think, when you made the point about growing at a good pace that you can know what you're doing, just going from your collection of animals to 2, 3, 8 clutches, that kicked my butt, man. I had to add a whole different routine to my day. Those little things, they poo more than my big ones do. They eat more than my big ones do. I'm constantly cleaning them, and they could be such a pain to get started. Some of them is no problem. You throw it in and boom, gone. Others of them, you're like 3 weeks, a month later, like, man, is this little thing going to eat? What's going to happen with this thing? So, you do that. First, you spend the money to produce a $50,000 or $10,000 animal. You're already in debt 6 figures, whether it's in debt to somebody or in debt to yourself. If you take the money from yourself, I still see that as debt. So, I'm with you. I'm with you on that growth. So 40 down to 25. So you consolidated, but you haven't backfilled yet. So is that a space and time consideration, a financial consideration, all three? How's that work?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that went into this. To be completely honest, one of the biggest driving forces was like the state of the market. So everybody's kind of feeling it. The ball python market's tighter than it had been the past few years. Snakes at one point in time were absolutely flying off the shelf. You barely could post something before somebody was reaching out about it.
Oh, this time last year, I mean, I'm producing better stuff this year, and it's moving way slower than last year. And actually, I want to talk about. I want to revisit that. We'll just do a whole segment on that tonight, some strategy on that. But yeah, the general overall look. Go ahead.
And so that was kind of a thing where we spent a lot. Josh and I spent a lot of time together on the idea phase, and we try to figure out what's the most efficient to make our processes better. Because the more time we can spend in the idea phase, that means that we could translate the idea into a process, make it more efficient, which gives us more time to think. And the thinking part of the operation, I think, is worth at least $1,000 per hour. That's the most valuable part of the operation, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, you have to make sure that everything gets done, all the care is taken care of. But anybody could do the care part. It's the idea part that's super important. So we spent a lot of time over this season with, I mean, it is frustrating when things aren't moving as well as they had in the past, and you anticipate a lot better of a market, but you can't control the overall market. So we were like, you know what, we don't want to be in this predicament where we're sitting on snakes, and then we also don't want to be producing snakes that people don't want to just jump on right away. We want people to be super excited about the products that we have. And at this point in time, it was just a really good opportunity for us to say, all right, we're going to really dial down to a couple of key projects that we are most excited about, most passionate about. And though it's not the best time to sell your stock in terms of the money, the long-term cost benefit analysis led us to this conclusion that it'll be the best time right now to move things, because we are in a market correction period, if you will, whatever you want to call it. And so although there are a lot of people getting out, and that's tanking some prices, a lot of people are getting desperate to sell stuff. So they're also undercutting the market. There are some people that are investing heavy during this time because they know buy the dip. They know that. Right. And so it's a good opportunity for us to move some of the stuff that we have had has been valuable to us, and for them to buy something at a better discount or at a better rate than they could have 2 years ago to get them the ball rolling really well for them. So we're just going to see it as a win-win in a lot of different ways. But yeah, so we went 40 down to 25. Part of it was market-driven consideration. Another part is time. Josh and I are young. We are super, super passionate about the snakes, and we're definitely going to be doing snakes for a while here. But we also have other aspects of our life that we are hoping to tend to. Family is really important for us, and so we've got some personal stuff that we'd like to focus on in terms of spending time with family, and then the cost of time is another thing to consider. So if we're spending this many hours working on snakes, well, if we boil it down and can make the same amount of money on fewer snakes, then that gives us opportunities to try other things out. Because Josh and I would say we're both entrepreneurial in nature, so we want to try stuff. And I think the best time to try is right now. So yeah, that's another consideration for sure.
And I feel like a cool thing about the strategy, I feel like a lot of people will say, oh, I'm going to go high end, whatever. But a cool thing about the strategy is there's so many different high end projects that everyone can do that. And there's going to be so much variety still. And the market's going to flourish regardless. So I think it's cool that so many people can take that same strategy, go a select super high end.
The mathematical possibilities literally cannot be attained by the number of people on the planet Earth, much less the number of people in the industry, and whether it's industry end or hobby end. It's so funny because we all feel good if we're lucky enough to pop out a world's first, and then you start going, well, every gene and every possible combination, it blows up Google if you do the math. Like even Google's computers can't quite handle it. It's so there is so much opportunity, and the end of the day, however somebody can connect with their consumer is who's going to win. And I know that there's regional guys here in Florida that have been at it 30, 40 years, and they've got I bet literally 20,000 snakes, and they make it on volume. There's people that can make it on volume. There's people that make it on consolidated high end, and there's a whole bunch in the middle. And again, how you cultivate those relationships and serve those consumers. Again, I want to talk about that that whole topic here in just a little bit. So you mentioned earlier, let's go to this Instagram thing. So you guys have like 48,000 followers on Instagram, more than twice what Mutation Creation just passed or just announced. Did I get the number wrong? It looked like you guys were correct.
40,000 something.
Oh, I thought it was 48.5.
41.8.
41.8. Okay, forgive me. You're in the 40s, and it's monstrous. And all right, so and by the way, I gotta say thanks to Phil, guys. Thanks. Any of the thank you, super chats, all that stuff goes to feeding the snakes. So that'll feed a ball python, and I have lots of snakes and lots of content to get to with these guys. So the less I have to worry about income, the better it is. So if you want to support the channel, that's how you can do it. While we're at a break and I'm peddling things, you'll notice the Redline branding. They are now the shipping company that I use. I'm aligned with them. I'm partnered with them. And you could use the code PROPER5 to get an additional $5 off of your, oh, there it is right there. I like it. The next shipping label. And whether you ship your own snakes or not, I'm going to pass on the savings to you as buyers and as customers. So thank you all. Thanks to Redline Shipping. There's actually not a penny of transaction that's coming my way on this. All it is a way to pass on value in my brand to consumers. And there's $5 in your pocket if you want to give them a shot, which I would say to do. There, enough of my commercials. Instagram, 40. Okay, so 40,000+. You talked about a strategy, but I want to know here's the big question I want to get to. If I look, and again, correct me because I might have been reading this wrong. I think it only shows that you have something like 180 posts. Yet you talk about this consistency, this dedication. I think I post 3 times a day, and I'm thinking to myself, I got the consistency, I got the dedication. What's going on? And then I see you have 180 posts. So talk about the strategy there. Are you taking posts down? What are you choosing to put up? How are you striking it? Take it away. Teach us.
So for a long time, it was very centered around our own collection, and that was great, but it became pretty repetitive. So we had a couple of videos pop off. We got pretty creative with what we wanted to do and how we wanted to showcase the snakes. And that was great. And then it dried up a little bit. So we went to the next step, or so what we thought
the next best thing that we could do,
what we could post, which was posting other people's content. We want to spread the word about ball pythons, show them in a good light. And so that's kind of where we're at right now.
I will just say a little slight correction for the Instagram. It wasn't other people's content. We're posting other people's snakes.
Right. I was going to, okay. I wanted to clarify
a technicality there, but
you're not reposting. You're going to show finding top-notch quality content to post.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was definitely a big thing. Prior to that step that we took while we were still doing our own, we were trying to get very creative with it. Mm-hmm. A couple of videos that we had that really got a lot of attention were what we called the fist bump or high fives. So everybody knows baby ball pythons.
Which I was going to say, explain that because they're not. I mean, you take no spoiler. Go ahead. You can do the spoiler.
So they're feisty. If you've bred ball pythons before,
our het puzzle stock was feisty,
especially our het puzzle stock. Yeah. So I'd go into the cage and go like this, close enough to their face, and then they would do a little nip.
Maybe a little fist bump, huh?
Yeah, it was innocent, no blood or anything like that. I think most of the times anyway. But yeah, so that got a lot of people's attention. Everybody sees a snake doing that. Oh, you're gonna die. That's a poisonous snake. Well, no, that's not very correct. But it did catch a lot of people's attention, and we were able to utilize that to kind of steer them towards our other content. So that worked out really well. And then, like Josh said, when we would go to shows, we saw some of the coolest snakes we'd ever seen. So we're like, we'll share that. Instagram is on this interesting growth progression themselves. So when we first started, we were doing the picture posts just like everybody else was. And that was working well for us for a while. And we were posting those quite a bit as our picture skills and angles and stuff got better. We did remove some of our old stuff that was just like plain snakes, and then we got them on a white backdrop, and that caught a lot of people's attention to start out with. So that worked for us for a while, but Instagram changed what they were pushing out content-wise. So if they have a new feature, they will push that content out to more people. The still image kind of is news of the past, and the new thing became reels. So we kind of figured that out, and a lot of people have figured that out at this point in time. But especially when reels were new, they really pushed that content. So I think part of our luck was that we started posting when they were pushing that content, and we recognized it fast. And so we were on that. We were posting once a day for a long time, and that helped our growth. Well, now what we're finding is they're not rewarding that consistency as well. So we've really reduced it down to a few times a week that we're posting reels. We don't do any still picture content just because there's not really a good reward for us at this point in time. We've talked about maybe down the road when we decide we're kind of going to back off a little bit, we feel good in our following in terms of numbers, we'll probably transition back into the really cool stuff that we hit. But nobody's gonna a het puzzle is not going to catch a lot of people's attention.
Right.
So that was something that we tossed around a lot, but we were like, you know what? We're not at a point where we can hit growth with showing people that are normal looking snakes. So what we're going to do instead is grow our following. And then once we have the heat, we're going to start posting that more and more. So we do reels of our own snakes that are our favorite ones. And we kind of intersperse that with really cool stuff that we've seen at shows. And I don't know, Instagram is just not pushing everybody's reels as far. I think it's because it's a little bit more saturated and people are used to the feature now, so they don't have to work as hard to get people to use the feature. Yeah. And so now it's kind of like waiting for what's the next thing they will do. How can you jump on it and be effective with it? One thing I will say is Josh has been good at kind of figuring out the strategy in terms of what angles to do. Part of it is by watching content that does well. And part of it is he's like, well, people are not going to want to watch a video where you only see a part of the snake. So we try to get a whole snake in our entire video. Or if we're showing a part of it, we try to go really close up on the coolest parts. But majority of the time, you'll get better views, better retention, more interaction and engagement when you show the full snake. Obviously, that's hard to do with adult snakes. So we focus on babies more. There's a lot of things to consider in that process. But for us, that's what's worked. And we've utilized those numbers towards making stronger connections in both the content creator world and the reptile world. When people see your content, and especially when they see themselves, some of these breeders see themselves featured in your videos, they get super excited. One of my favorites is Tom Harbin. He's a guy who's been in it for eons. He was a former veterinarian, and we featured one of his snakes, and he was just like super excited about being featured in our top 10 video. Well, he had produced this amazing snake. He's been in the game for a really long time, and to have somebody who's basically like a legend be that excited, and now we interact with him every time we see him. That's a really neat thing. And I think that's partially possible just because of the following that we've cultivated.
Most definitely. I've had some experiences similar on that. And it's really, it's funny to see the spectrum of people that want to be part of the content with their snake, which I'm happy to do and happy to show faces and highlight them like we're doing now. And others who are like, no, you film whatever you want on any of my snakes. Here's the keys. I'm not going to be in your video whatsoever. And it's all of it together. And it's cultivating those relationships and realizing all of it's okay. Like you can't drive somebody away because of that response, you know, or you shouldn't. You could drive them away. Don't drive them away because of that response. But so that's cool. Do you and we could probably just do a whole show on this, so we don't have to go super down the rabbit hole. Do you use Instagram at all for? I realize the macro advertising. You're growing the brand. You're growing the trust in the brand. The micro advertising. This snake. Do you ever do that on do you use Instagram in a vehicle that way or not?
It used to be safer to use it for that.
Yeah, I would say so.
It doesn't, we don't risk it. A lot of people have had their accounts taken down or restricted. And so Facebook and Instagram, anything associated with the Meta parent company, they don't really take animal sales well. So we more so use it to cultivate the following and build the brand as a whole, which has hey, what's up, Houston Underground? We met him out in California a few months back.
Oh, cool. Thanks for coming on the show.
He's one of our original followers from our early days. So
thanks for coming over to the channel.
Right there.
Speaking of breeders that have been really good to me, that's Dale at Constricted Reptiles. It just has killer stuff. But yeah, if you ever want to get Dale talking, ask him about reels in person. You'll get a strong opinion from Dale on that. Fortunately for Dale, he produces some of the most amazing stuff out there. So he's doing all right on the still pictures. Dale, I got to catch up with you. I am still planning to be in Tampa in 2 weeks, man. Veterans Day weekend. Learning from Dale and working with him and helping. We'll finalize that, but maybe it already is final. But anyhow, Dale, I'll be in touch with you. Thanks for checking out the show, brother. So then let me go back on a bigger picture question. Then, if not there on Instagram on Micro, how do you see the translation from social media impact, brand trust, brand awareness to, okay, here's the snakes. We need some transaction, because all that stuff is cool, but you got lives to live, you got food to eat, you got, all the stuff that we all work for. So how do you see your sales funnel working in that way?
So, I mean, speaking of like on behalf of Instagram, I guess, I think it's just a good way for people to reach out to us. It's more personable than just sending an email. They can also check out our page, what kind of other stuff. Let's say we hit a clutch and we post a bunch of the babies on our Instagram. They can kind of see what other stuff was in that clutch. So we'll funnel people from like YouTube to our Instagram. Hey, you can hit us up in a DM if you're interested in buying snakes. We also have it linked in our Morph Market, so if people want to reach out directly from there, that's always an option too. And we recently did an international transaction. They actually found us through Instagram. So I would say through like self marketing, people can also figure to reach out to us through there, and we can make sales that way without necessarily having to post that this snake is for sale.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the beauty, I say all the time on this show, like, what an amazing time to be alive and to be doing business. Like 15 years ago, our industry relied on printed magazine and maybe some online forums, but chat rooms. That's it. Like, and that's not just our industry. That's anything. I mean, musicians, we don't need record deals anymore. I can get music out to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, it's incredible. So, all right. So yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, if you have a big enough presence, people can find how to get to you in different ways. And certainly when you make it open to them getting to you. Talk about the differences there, or the different ways that you leverage YouTube and Instagram. Where do you find value in either of those? And what's the philosophical differences for you all?
So YouTube is by far a more loyal following. When we interact with our with the people who subscribe to us, it feels like an actual connection. Those are the people we're usually going out and seeing when we are at the shows. People are like, oh, we recognize you from the videos. So for us, the YouTube is a lot more of a loyal following. And I would say, even though it's only 3,000 as opposed to 40,000, it's a lot more potent of a following. It's less whereas Instagram.
I would say, if I jump in, I completely agree. Like I've used the expression, I want people's hearts, not their clicks. Like I would love 10,000 or 20 or 50,000, but honestly, at 1,700 on YouTube, highly engaged people that watch my videos, an average of 8 minutes per 8 minutes, man, it's unreal. Cool. I got to keep things in perspective. Now, maybe that's just what I tell myself because I don't have 3,000 or 40,000, but I really do. I mean, that's how I saw things in my restaurant career. You could buy food anywhere. Why do you want to choose to buy it from me? Okay, I got to connect with you deeper. I got to have a better experience, better service. I got to figure out how to ship things to you at a more fair price, all of those things. So, all right, so a tighter, a more intimate connection on YouTube.
Yep, absolutely. And then Instagram is great because a lot of our followers are in the US. So If they do want to buy snakes, it's something that we can easily get done. And then also, like Josh said, we have also had international people reach out to us, and this was our first year doing an international sale. We've only done one to date, and we're still, it's a whole process. There's a lot of things that go into it, but that was a really neat thing. TikTok is another platform. We have even more followers. What are we? 300,000, but we don't really even post there anymore because there was no benefits besides clout. Clout can take you places.
Yeah, it could get doors open for you. I mean, it could get a logo in the top corner if you want it eventually.
Absolutely. So it does work out, but for our purposes, we didn't think that TikTok was the best thing to do. So what we'll do nowadays is if we have a reel that we think is super cool, we will post it on our Instagram and then kind of cross-pollinate. So TikTok also gets it because majority of our TikTok audience is going to be international audience. We have a bunch of people from Brazil, Russia, India, just a bunch of different places around the world, which is neat.
Yeah.
But also it's not the way the TikTok algorithm is, it doesn't get your content to your followers.
It's not practical. It's not as practical for a business advertising vehicle. Huh? Yeah.
Yep. So
oddly, I've noticed just in the past 3 weeks, my Instagram is going nuts in Turkey. Ankara, I'm huge, man. Jakarta in Indonesia doing real well these days.
Yeah.
Wait, what's going on here?
I think what happens is once it catches wind with somebody in that region, then it kind of pushes to other people there because they assume that there are some cultural similarities in the content they might like. And so I think that's kind of what's going on.
And some of it is just a sheer numbers game. I don't think so much Turkey, but Indonesia is like the third most populated country in the world. Nobody thinks about that. India's got 1 billion people. So, okay, so I'm big in India and Indonesia. Well, okay, everything's big there because they got the most people. So maybe that's the case. But the Turkey pop on the metrics was really interesting. I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. So, so on YouTube, I noticed specifically you all take a different thumbnail strategy. I'm just throwing stuff off the wall at you here, so sorry if I'm catching you off guard. Talk to me about your thumbnail strategy. Specifically, I rarely see words on your thumbnail. It's, I think, generally Jace's face, but sometimes Josh's and a bunch of snakes. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, so we dabbled with a whole lot of different thumbnail formulas, and so you can even see the progression on our page of how it's changed. And the way that we determined what we wanted to do, we just essentially let the numbers do the talking. So if you found that one thumbnail did better, then we're going to keep doing it, and we consistently innovate, and every once in a while we'll try a new one. But the one that stuck is the one with Jace's face in there with a big shock face and a bunch of cool snakes in the background.
Exactly that.
At the end of the day, the people want to see the cool snakes.
I think there's a lot of value in putting a face in the thumbnail, especially if you're willing to connect your face to your brand. There are YouTube channels that do well that don't even show a face ever, but what we're trying to do is really connect who we are with our brand because it is a very personal thing to us. So with our videos, people see that emotion and just subconsciously react to the emotion. And then on top of that, there are these layers of really amazing looking snakes. We used to try the words. Sometimes words are too small for thumbnails, especially majority of people who are going to be watching videos are watching on their phone. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
So kind of keep that in mind. We've tried, like Josh said, multiple different thumbnails styles, and this is the one that works. And we've even tried a couple different thumbnails on the same video. You can go back and change your thumbnails. And this is the one that just gets the best amount of clicks. So we figure if we can get the click, then at least we have a chance to pitch our content to people who may not have seen us before. And if they like it, they'll come back. And if they don't, fine, at least we got that exposure. At least there's that attempt. So we boiled it down to basically what works best for us consistently. But Josh is definitely the big mastermind behind the thumbnails. He creates them. He comes up with a lot of ideas for that aspect of it. And it's really, the thumbnails are basically the most important part of your video.
Impression. Yeah, that's the gateway.
Yeah, because it's like the thumbnail is your advertisement. That's your one shot to catch people's attention. And so a lot of people get mad about clickbait, but you need to have clickbait so that people click on it, but the clickbait has to be relevant to your content. That's how you get the best return.
It's got to be, yeah. And then I think most people would say as long as you're meeting that criteria, they wouldn't call it clickbait in the negative connotation of it. You know, I don't see a good thumbnail in that negative clickbait connotation. I see that as a good hook. That's what brings people in. That's the movie trailer or the big explosion scene or whatever it might be. Let me ask you a really, it's not a really technical question because I'm sure it's a simple answer, but a technical thing to me. What software do you use? And Josh, maybe this is for you if you're the one designing them. What do you use to put the white line around the head and around the face is like the hippest, hottest thing right now. And I see it everywhere and I can't find it. I use Canva. I can't find it anywhere in the effects to figure out how to do that. Do you do that manually or do you have software for that? What are you doing on that?
Yeah, so we use Adobe Photoshop. And so Photoshop makes it super easy. They have a tool where it automatically will outline Jace. And then what we do with that outline is we can put any kind of effect behind it. We can put shadow. We can do white outline, pretty much anything to make it super easy. That's
what I need on Canva. I can't believe they don't have. They got to have it. I think it's just me being ignorant, not knowing what it's called. Like, because I see it on yours. I see. I study this stuff. The iteration of thumbnails. That's Mr. Beast's classic move, right? He's a nut about it, famous about it, right? So, but his thumbnails. Line around his face, man, you're gonna have it. So I'm working on it. I'm getting there. So let's see. Creative Genetics says magic wand. Hey Keith, I saw your question about a QR code. We're gonna get there. I didn't want to break the stream that we were on. I made a note of it though. So let me put QR code. Stick by there. Yeah. What? Okay. Yeah. So are you allowed to post a QR code on Instagram? Like, can that be your post?
As far as I'm aware, yes, it can, but then you need a way to scan
the QR code.
So if you only have one phone, it might be a little bit difficult for people to actually access what's inside of that QR code.
Oh yeah, I had a buddy that was in stand-up comedy, and one of his jokes was this is when millennial were the ones that were picked on. You guys came after, but like 10 years ago, the joke was tell a millennial to take a picture of their phone. And why? Like that was the same kind of thing. Like how are you going to scan the code with yeah. Well, there you go, Keith. I suppose you could post it, and it might. I don't know. Yeah. Okay.
If they have a buddy with them, you definitely can make use of
their phone. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, I thought it was an interesting angle until you said, it's White Widow says use an app that can scan pics. It's out there.
Yeah.
Anytime a consumer consumes something, whenever there's a roadblock or a hitch or an extra step, a hurdle, I call it friction. That's just friction, though. If you have to go get another phone or you have to go get another app, the one click on the phone is the least amount of friction, right? I mean, it's there in their hand and boom, you get there. So that's kind of always the goal, I think.
Yeah. So one thing that's kind of cuts out that middle step is in your stories on Instagram, you can put your link in there. So you go to stickers, and there's an option to post a link in there. That's the best way to get a one click instead of having to go through and create that friction. Like you said, it's literally just a streamlined thing. They see your story. There's a link there and they can click directly on that. And it'll take them where you want them to go. So that's a pretty effective way to utilize that same kind of concept.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty big benefit. Like, so for a guy like me, like, I'm learning, I'm intrigued because I think it's important to the business. Do I wake up and go, man, I can't wait for social media today? Not really. But so like new things like the stories, I don't know what to me, it's just like, well, that's content that I can just post regular. Why would I do it different than just posting regular? But that's a pretty good differentiating factor. Are there others in like the benefit story? Like what's the benefit of a story versus a reel?
I think they just serve two different purposes. So a reel is going to push you out to your followers. You're going to get new exposure to your page. Whereas a story is going to be oriented towards your current followers and the loyal people who want to keep up with what's going on with you. So you can post, like if you have stuff for sale, you're going to obviously show the people who have been following you and who like what you do. And you post that on your story.
Go ahead. You'd be surprised how many people spend a lot of time going through the stories because It's a lot easier.
It's at the top of the page.
It's at the top of the page. You click on one circle, and then it automatically goes. You have to do zero work.
Rotate. Yeah.
And something that minuscule actually makes a huge difference. So people will click and then just let it go and watch stories. I think that's part of why Reels are also effective. You just do a swipe and you see the next video, which is a lot more bang for your buck than if you swipe and just see one picture.
Yeah. And again, it's that friction thing. You don't have to do anything. It's already curated for you. If I'm understanding stories right, those are only coming from people that you already follow. That's not the strangers. That's not the algorithm going, hey, you're going to love this because I tell you to. No, you're following those stories, right?
Yep, exactly.
Do you see, are those like, I feel like the old man asking about Facebook. Are those like the private messages in Facebook where you have a whole lot more leeway on what you post in stories as far as regulation and sales, or do you know? Are you not? You don't seem comfortable answering that.
Todd brought up a good point. They do delete after 24 hours, so I would imagine you probably have a bit more leeway compared to something that's on your page, indefinitely, unless you were to disable.
Well, another thing too is you can say, go check out this new Snake on Morph Market link below. Instead of, you don't have to put a price on there, but you could put the picture and put that message.
Right.
And Instagram's not going to catch that.
Gotcha.
In the same way they might as a post. But yeah, they're only up for 24 hours. There are ways to save your stories for longer by putting them in a highlight reel on your page, which is a thing that we do just for our fun stuff. So like, we don't want to post a million pictures from a show to our main feed, but we still want to show all those pictures because we had a really good time. And we think a lot of people who didn't get to go to those shows enjoy those as well. We've gotten a lot of feedback that they really like that. So what we'll do is save those reels as little icons on our main page. And that's an opportunity for people to see, the stories. Save the stories on our main page as an opportunity for people to see kind of pictures of what we saw while we were at the show. But yeah, I think you can get away with a little bit more. We don't really include numbers in ours. We just say, here's a picture of the snake. If you like it, click this link.
Yeah. Gotcha.
That's our safe way of,
that's really all that you need though, too. I mean, again, I don't like the extra step. I don't like the friction. One extra click to a website is much less friction than downloading an app to scan something and then to interpret it. So, cool. Well, hey, thank you for taking that time to I actually just learned a whole lot right then. What you talked about, I think we kind of already covered it, but I still wanted to just touch base. How much value or concern, and I think the answer is fairly low from the conversation we've already had, the idea of diversification in your product. So you, whether you want to share or not, have the specifics, but you have isolated some projects that are very special. You think that's where the train's going. You think that's where you can get on board and go, so to speak. What about things outside of that project? Is there, if this was a portfolio, are there any projects outside of that, or is that 100% of the mix? Those handful of projects. Does that make sense? What I'm asking?
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's definitely a big thing to think on, because there's some projects where people go fully in on. I know there's a story of the desert gene, which is a different gene than desert goats. Desert was a codominant gene,
right?
And there ended up being a lot of issues with it. But when it was first discovered and produced, that people were producing them like crazy because they look amazing. And Antoine Hood from High Desert has this funny story. Well, it sucks, but he invested heavily into that. And then they found out that the females are infertile. They can't, or there's genetic issues with it. Yeah, I think that's the most common issue. And so all of that, he put all of his eggs in one basket, and that really bit him in the butt. It was not a good deal for him. So there's definitely that to watch out for. The projects that we are heading towards right now, there's been some stuff. There's a lot of history behind these genes, and what we're trying to do is take it and make the multi-recessives. That's a very common trend right now in the industry. That's the direction, the current direction of the industry. So the benefit for us doing that is we do get to kind of stay in what's hot right now, and also work projects that we're really excited about. Mm-hmm. What I think is the worst thing you can do is completely chase projects just because you think they're hot, but you don't like them. You want to be able to pull out your tub and be like, wow, that's a cool animal. Mm-hmm. And
yes.
So for for us, we want to be able to do that and also have it fit with our business goals. If I had my way completely and was doing it as a hobby, I would make some different decisions, probably slightly different decisions, because I would probably keep a way higher volume, but it just doesn't make doesn't make sense from a time standpoint.
Yeah.
So what we're focusing on right now is we're really trying to hit, let's say our main project is like Hypo Puzzle. We just think it's a super cool project. It's in a range that a lot of breeders that are investing are buying into. We don't have any double visuals yet, but we're working towards that. We have several double hats or pos double hats. And so that's one of the projects we're working on. There is benefits to diversification if you're thinking about it in the long term. And if that's what you want to do full-time solely is snakes. A lot of times that comes down to a volume thing. So I will say at the beginning of the season and consistently throughout the season, our sales of blue-eyed leucistic animals, a lot of people talk about it, but they say bells pay the bills. That is an Adam quote. Yeah.
I made a video called "Bells Pay the Bills."
Yeah. So that's one thing that you can do. But if you have bells to support your other projects, then you're awesome.
Right.
Well, we're at a point where we think that we can leverage our time outside of ball pythons to bring us income. So that way we can focus on trying different things out. And we're not going to put the pressure of having ball pythons be our sole source of income. We're not going to do that to our business. So we are able to focus in and not diversify as much.
Yeah.
I think that it'll serve us well. And I think that it'll get us exactly where we need to go. But if you look at like John Daig's collection, that's our sponsor. He works TSK Axanthic. That line was the worst Axanthic line. Nobody wanted to work with it. He put the time in to make it something that's great. He made the TSK Axanthic great. And now people from all over the world know who he is because of his line of Axanthic. And he had a really cool snake, the Stormtrooper. So he's well known for that. But that really shined a light on all the work that he's been putting into that one single gene.
Yeah.
Killing off of it. He makes more money doing snakes than at his actual job. And I will just say he makes a lot of money at his actual job. I won't go too much into specifics, but he's an engineer. So and I think he manages engineers. So he's not doing bad, and he loves that job too. So like, if you focus in on just one project, there are ways to still diversify your collection within that one project.
That, you know what, that's a great point. And actually that comes back to a lot of sort of arguments, and not arguments, spirited arguments, fun debates that I've had. Who's to say one project is different than another project? Because the second you breed them together, boom, you're diversifying within however you want to put it. So, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole because I kind of get exhausted on. I have exhausted that topic before. I think it's also a really good point just to recognize too how different everybody's play. Like everything comes from everybody's own perspective. Again, you all saying, well, we have this, but we got other things we want to look at. And I'm going, I've been doing those. I'm done with those other things. This is what I want to be doing. So like it's a different part of the cycle, and it's cool. And I hope you could see in my smile, like I'm intrigued by hearing about it. And it's nice to hear the reinforcement of there's different ideas and different ways to go about tackling goals and what we're after achieving, Talk to me about, let's switch gears completely. We spent a ton of time. And by the way, audience, we're 9:10 right now. We got 20, 30 more minutes. We got plenty of time. If there's questions, specific topics, put them in there. I'll start making some notes on that. But I got a couple other topics too, definitely that I want to get to. So while we're doing that, you could be thinking up your topics. Tell me, switching gears completely. Talk to me about Animal Con. There was so much. The build up to it was really interesting. I had a little bit of a behind the scenes perspective just from some of the breeder friends and some of the shows I was at leading up to it. Obviously Daytona was right before it, like the weekend before. And then And so there were some perspectives of how people sort of thought it would go or what their opinion of what was happening. But I will say I heard that it was a really, really great event, even with any other behind the scenes stuff. Tell us about your experience there. And I think you all were like, you weren't just guests. You weren't just attendees. You were officially involved, right?
That is correct. Yeah. And I'll start off because my answer is going to be a lot shorter than Jace's. So me personally, I mean, I love all reptiles, but ball pythons have like a special spot in my heart. And so this event was pretty much all animals. There's fish, mammals, all kinds of different reptiles were being talked about. And that's great. But I'm just so dialed in and so interested on ball pythons. Like if it was a whole event about ball pythons, I would have loved it. I would have enjoyed every last second of it.
AKA any reptile show.
Yeah.
Right.
So from my perspective, it was great. A lot of new concepts and things were thrown out there. And so there's a lot of good information. It wasn't all geared toward ball pythons though. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. But Jason,
I'd say the down and dirty. Would Josh go back? Probably not.
Yeah.
Would Jace go back? Probably if the opportunity presented itself. So
yeah.
So
what was the panel that you all were, or what was your official capacity there involvement?
Yeah, so we were on 3 different panels.
Hang on a second. I gotta go ahead and talk. I got a bot I gotta get rid of. Hang on a second.
Oh, lovely.
Run into those.
Don't they know a broom of snake nerds? Like we're not the ones for you, girl. All right, go ahead.
So anyway, we were on 3 panels. So they had to do with snake breeding. So one was, I should say snake keeping. One was based around the breeding season. One was the social media aspects around the snakes. And then the other one, what was the other one? How to manage a large collection of animals. So
okay,
cool. The 3 panels that we were on. And I will say the idea phase, well, this is one of those instances where the idea phase was really rich, but the execution of ideas kind of lacked, I think. And I don't mean to say that, no disrespect, there actually a lot of respect to the people that put it on. It's a really amazing idea, and I think it's just the seed right now. I don't think it actually had the chance to fully sprout this time around. It's there are a lot of factors that went into it, but I think it was a great learning experience for the people who put it on. From a personal perspective, what I really liked is that I got to meet a lot of people that I've just seen online for a long time.
Right.
I don't necessarily meet at the reptile expos, which a lot of people were like, oh, I don't want to go because I have too much access to these people anyway on a regular basis. Well, it's actually connecting you with a lot of different people that are in a different realm. A lot of these people are actually pet keepers, or they're people like Brian Barczyk or Jay Brewer that have had snakes for a long, long time. They have reptile zoos and they have a whole bunch of knowledge, whether you like them or not. They have a lot of knowledge that they can share with you. So,
it felt like in the prep stages, it was a little bit chaotic from who's going to do what, where, when. And it sounded like, I mean, to your point, both you and Josh's point, it almost wasn't focused enough. Like the word animal, that's a big word, man. Like I value diversification from an investment strategy and also from a ball python strategy, but that's a little much, it seemed like. But what I heard afterwards was that it did come together. It ended up being a very cool event. The people that yourselves included, but the people that needed to be there were there. I thought I didn't go. I wasn't there myself, but I thought in retrospect, I actually regretted not going. It looked a little bit like, I always see these advertisements for like autograph sessions with like Ric Flair and Mike Tyson. I'm like, this looks like just a local mall where they're going to line up Barczyk or something. And you're just going to walk. It wasn't that at all from what I understand. So
I think that's where their messaging was not quite on point, because I think they thought their way to bring in the followers is, here's your opportunity to meet these influencers.
Yeah.
What they really didn't do, though, is a good job of letting everybody know what the whole event is going to be about. Even by the time we got there, we still didn't know what we were doing until we were literally basically on the panels. So
I wasn't going to say that out loud. I did hear some of that, like, you're going to moderate this right now.
So, yeah. But that is the reality of it. And the plus side to that is that the people who ran it, they're fully aware of that. and they're taking feedback and they're going to make things better. And they've already the moment that this conference started this year, they were starting to plan for next year already. I mean, they just knew this one wasn't going to be what they had hoped for it to be. But I think at some point they just needed to pull the trigger to get the ball rolling.
You have to start. You have to just start. And something like, to me, that's a monstrous undertaking to just start. I mean, to buy, I'm guessing it was at a hotel or a conference center, but to buy a conference center, to fly in, I mean, they had what, hundreds of panel guests. I'm not, maybe not hundreds, but 100, right? I mean, it was a whole lot.
Yeah, so they had that. A lot of people were worried that it was just going to be a bunch of influencers stroking their own egos and stuff like that. I don't think it was quite that. I think there's some people there that were really they didn't have the time put in to have that much. They kind of thought a little bit too much about themselves. There were a few characters, but there are also a lot of people who've been doing this for a really long time that they were just great, genuine people to connect with, and they have a lot of information to provide. There's a couple people that I'd never heard of before. One was this guy, Ants Canada is his channel. I didn't know how crazy people got about ants, but I will say probably half the people that actually bought tickets bought it literally just to meet him.
That's what my boy watches. My 10-year-old, he's like, Dad, we got to start a ant channel. I'm like, dude, I got enough on my plate with a snake channel. Yeah, he's nuts about it.
Yeah, so like if they could have had a few of those key people that were really big to go there and highlight those people being there, I think they may have had a better turnout. But there's a bunch of influencers. Like it was a humbling experience for us to be able to be on a panel next to some of these people. And also, I don't think that they did a good enough job being like, look how crazy some of these panelists are going to be. Like, probably if they cut out half of the influencers that went, they could probably still have the same amount of a showing. Because what happened is people have 300,000 on TikTok and they're like, oh, that's a big following, you should come. What they forget to recognize is that 300,000 on TikTok is way different than 300,000 on YouTube. Even if you have, like some of these people had 1 million on TikTok and they had a really loyal following. Awesome. But the numbers don't always tell the full story. And that's what I don't think they vetted the influencers as much. I'd say we probably had like a few people there that were there to see us. And that's just because they're snake breeder people that we've met with and talked with before and done podcasts with and stuff like that. So it's like, we knew a few people that were there for the snake people, but at the end of the day, if they didn't have us there as guests, like I'm super grateful that we were there. I would go back again. Absolutely. And also if they didn't have us, I don't think it would have hurt the conference.
I mean, I see it, and we can move on from Animal Con here in a minute, but I see it as like almost like putting on a music festival for the first year and going, well, hey, this is going to be a punk rock show. And then going, well, this is kind of a power pop band. Let's get down. Oh, well, this is, well, okay, so there's sort of like some pop country. Maybe we'll get them too. They're really popular, and it just seemed like it was like, okay, you got Brian Barczyk and you got this Ant Canada dude, both huge, both I'm sure, but on the same event, that's a little strange, right? I don't know, maybe not.
I think that once the concept blossoms, that you can absolutely pull it off.
Yeah,
you'll just have to have. It'll be kind of separated. So there were a lot of people there that wanted to see the fish influencers and other people that wanted to see that. I think you could pull it off. You just have to space out their time. So all the fish people will be spread out along all these different times, but they're all going to be in this wing and all of the mammal people are there. I think there's so much good that can happen. And to be honest, my favorite part was the TV personalities that were there. There's some guys that have been on TV for a long time and just hearing their stories was so cool. Like the Brett from Tanked was there, and there's who's some other guys. There's like a few Dingo Dinkelman. There's a few guys from South Africa, Australia. Some of the guys from Gator Boys. There's just a bunch of cool people that had just really fascinating stories.
Yeah,
and have been there. There's some information that you can glean from that, absolutely. But even just to be there and hear about their experiences is so exciting. And I hope that they do more in the future where they just get to let one person tell some stories for a half hour instead of try to cram a bunch of people on a panel. But I think I think what's coming out is a lot of things that weren't the best because those were the easiest to focus on, but there were a lot of great things that happened at Animal Con. And I think it's just going to keep growing. as long as they take the feedback and push that feedback into the right
Well,
direction.
I think there's enough there. Even if they don't, somebody will. Like, there's not much proprietary to that. Write the checks, get the people there, put on a show kind of deal. So who's going to do it best? I would go to the next, after hearing what I heard about it and the positive experiences and the interactions were really great. I mean, they circle all the way back to Instagram. The Instagram posts I saw from a lot of people that I know personally, not on the celebrity level, so to speak. They were having a blast, man, with people on their celebrity level. You know, like there's something about, you know, it's like the rock and roll fantasy camps. You get to go jam with your hero or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, all right. Thank you for sharing that. We talked some earlier, but I wanted to dive in just a little bit. I think if you disagree, let me know. I think we all agree the market is tough right now. There's a fear of, you know, we're clearly in a correction. Are we in a recession? Are we about to be? This week, thankfully, has been very nice. 2 days in, we're up about 3% across the board on the markets. Fantastic. You touched on it earlier. It's a good buying opportunity if that's your sort of thing. If you want to do expand investments right now, which is actually a play that I've been participating in. What I really wanted to talk about, though, is in that context, how do you what efforts do you or do you put any in? Is it all brand marketing? Do you what customer relationship sort of management do you put in? I'm finding that that's what's making the difference for me right now. Targeting buyers, targeting who I'm going to buy, leveraging the relationships with past customers, knowing them and making the experience feel personal. And it might be a lower dollar snake, but they also come back when the time is good too. What do you all use on that? I mean, I think there's a perception that we get our brands big enough and poof, the buyers just show up. Is that what you do? I mean, is that the strategy, or do you do more behind the scenes? Do you care to share any of that?
I don't know.
Yeah, so it's tough. I don't know if we have attempted a couple of things. So we got to a point where we had more hatchlings than we thought we were going to at that time because we were expecting stuff to move a little faster. So we ran 20% off sale. That did help on YouTube. And
Yeah.
We gave it a 2-week window and we did make some sales during that time. And then some people came after that 2-week window and they asked politely and they said, hey, is this still going on? There's a good positive interaction. So we honored that beyond there. At this point in time, it's like you can sit on a snake and try to keep the market at where it's at, but then in the long term, you're going to be feeding the snake for a long time. So you have to weigh the costs and see what makes sense most for you and your operation. I don't think it's a good idea for everybody to just completely undercut the market, because what's going to happen is it's going to go from this really high swing to a really low swing, and there's going to be a lot of expectations for very cheap snakes.
Yeah.
A lot of people can understand though. So one thing that we often offer is group deals, and we let people know which snakes that we have available, and they get a picture number, and then we kind of negotiate off of that. But we do, and during times like this, we do definitely give, how do I want to say it? If the more snakes they buy, the better group deal they're going to get.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's just
So
good.
we'll incentivize it in that. And
yeah,
I mean, we somewhat do that during the good times too, but especially during times like this, people that are looking to invest, we want to be able to support their operation, what they have going. So we don't get mad about not making as much on the snakes this year as we could have last year. Instead, our take on it to try to stay positive is, this is awesome because there's a lot of things going on here. First of all, this person is getting snakes at what they feel is like a very good deal for them. And it's building up what they're doing. So that feels good for us. And then another big benefit from our side, from the operational side, is that we no longer have to spend time cleaning the snake every week, feeding the snake every week. So in the end, it's a win-win on both sides, we feel.
Yeah. And there's nothing, I think we as sellers have to remember, there's nothing owed to us, because we decide that, we all say it takes the same effort to produce a really expensive snake as or the same cleaning and feeding of a really expensive one to a really cheap one.
Yeah.
So there's nothing owed to us. And I think I wouldn't say I fear, actually I anticipate, the beauty and the curse of capitalism is the market is going to do what the market will sustain. We can want all sorts of things. How we navigate the chaos and survive in the ups and the downs. And that was especially tough in restaurants. I mean, when a profit margin of 7% was a really good year in restaurants, like you learn to you're going to get creative, and you're going to see where you can slim down on the slim times and how to build your base in the really good times. So I just, because I brought the topic up, and if anybody in the audience was curious, I have found some luck in sales. So part of my background is selling weddings for resorts and group sales in large resort or private club settings. And one of the tools there called CRM, customer relationship management software. And that really is a base of contacts where you keep as many notes as you can. So I didn't know if you had things like for example, I know, I won't get specific, but I know who in the audience has bought a banana het clown from me. He might not buy anything from me for a year and a half or 2 years, but maybe there's going to be a perfect component to go to that female when she matures, those sorts of things. But if you have a big enough database that's searchable, and you can bring up, you get a clown clutch and you bring up your past 15 clown purchasers. Oh, let me target them first, kind of deal. So it's really kind of a way to bring good service, I think, as well as good selling, which ideally go hand in hand.
Yeah, so we don't really have that.
We have all the emails.
We have all the emails. Yeah. We consider trying to keep track. What we try to do is really make it a fantastic interaction on the front end. And so that way we are not working on the back end to try to recoup those buyers. That being said, your success in getting repeat customers is probably a lot higher if we broke it down to the numbers. So I definitely know that there's value in doing that. I guess we just don't do that is the answer.
I was curious, and it's certainly not a critique or a condemnation. It's what resources do either of us have? And again, how do we reach our customers? If you have an easier path to your customers via Instagram or any other way, but those are the little things that we each figure out in our own businesses and in our own ways. And I like bringing it up because somebody somewhere is going to go, oh man, I'm an amazing database manager. I never thought about applying that to ball python sales. You know what I mean? So those are the kinds of things that come up.
The comment on the screen, I think, is really interesting. We kind of touched base on the bells thing, but yeah, that's exactly right. The very pretty but inexpensive snakes are your bread and butter. Absolutely. And so that's, to me, that's a strategy you can play to. Absolutely. A lot of people only focus on get your higher end snakes because you're going to have the higher margins. But if nobody's buying snakes at all, there's no movement, then we're going to have a clench in the whole ball python market. Mm-hmm. What happened is Josh and I, if we didn't have any of our bells, we wouldn't have had money to spend on other snakes this season. Mm-hmm. But because we had those, we could spend those on a higher end snakes that we want to buy. And then that it has a domino effect or a ripple effect. So that way other people have the opportunity to have some money that they can move around as well. Because what you find that happens is a lot of ball python people, the money they make goes right back into the industry.
Yeah. I think it largely does. Yeah.
With some bomb projects. Yeah. So the thing is, I think the lower priced but very visually appealing animals, those go to money outside of the industry, which is super beneficial for the industry as a whole because we're bringing outside resources in to replenish the already concentrated pool of money that's just cycling around within. If nobody's figuring out a snake because they can't quite do it, then it's just going to completely be clenched up. But a third of our sales this year happened in the past 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
And I was going to say my part of it's just because I've had the highest inventory, but almost to the exact percentage. Yeah. Right at 30%. I would say the past 4 weeks, the past 30 days, I've done 33% of my annual revenue in the past 30 days.
Why do you think that is? Because I feel like a lot of people have had a jump in sales. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on it.
Mine gets it's a little deeper than what's on the surface. I alluded to it with this advertising thing with Redline. 2 weeks. So I consult in restaurants. I don't work in day-to-day operations anymore. And my biggest client gave me a 90-day notice saying, "Hey, we're not going to renew. We're good. You've done your job. We're ready to fly on our own." It's the conundrum of consulting. Like, you want to get customers to that point, and then, but you don't want them to totally go, so I hit this real crunch of, okay, what am I going to do? And what are some strategies that I can implement? So I implemented some new strategies. One of them was that CRM strategy where I spent literally work days of going, I've got to get this contact list together. I've got to get this database of who's purchased what organized, and I've got to start reaching out to some people. And sure enough, it worked. Sure enough, all right, I'm going to spend a little more time on. Anyhow, the past 30 days has been a really, really interesting time where, like, I'm not going hungry. I'm not going to go hungry. Oh, what's the worst that could happen? I go back and run restaurants again. Like, I'm good. I'm cool. But it's this really neat time for me to go, all right, well, the sun's setting. I can have another sun come up in the same setting, or I could try some other things. So things like going, I see a gap in the shipping market. What's a leverage that I would like to leverage that I put this work into that I could pass on to my customers? Boom, here comes this Redline thing. That was just today. So a lot of those, I've been working more at it. And I always think I work with the pedal down. Fact is, I found more time to put more effort into it. And I made some deals, but I really didn't cut many prices. I really didn't undercut things. I don't price myself at the top of the market, but I don't go, who's the cheapest, got to be cheaper than them either. So
yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Yeah, I feel like people really underutilize the different methods that people in other industries utilize in ball pythons. So,
well, I think partially that is just because, especially in the past few years, we've just had it so good that we didn't realize that we had it so good. So
yeah, there's some basics, of just business in general, not ball python. But yeah, I remember when the sales team that I oversaw at the last resort, I would say to them, I'd say, hey, our marketing team's doing fantastic to bring in the leads, but what have you all done for any outward bound sales? Because really they were just taking orders. I mean, I'm using the server now. They were just waiting for people to the phone to ring and to write the order down. What happens in the lean time when you got to go find those customers, when you got to be the guy? Because really, we can all make pretty nice photos. Once I figure out how to put the line around my face, I'll have some good thumbnails too. Like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to get there. So how do we put the service to it? And I don't have that answer. It's how I've been able to work at it. I don't have one simple answer for it, other than to say there seems to be money out there. One simple thing that I've done, it's a pain in the butt. I've been really accommodating with payment plans. I put a firm structure around it, and I tell them up front I'm going to, within reason, hold people to it. Some people don't like it and they don't agree to it. I'm looking at I have a wall of orders over there. I've got about 10 snakes on payment plans right now. So yeah, would I like the less work and less feeding? Sure. I like the revenue too. And those become really loyal customers. You talk to them every time that there's a payment, every time. Yeah. I mean, there's a bright lining that you're staying in touch with them, or whenever they feed, I'll text pictures. Hey, your boy's doing great. I can't wait to get it to you, and it's this cool service thing that happens too.
Yeah. Just a side note, Rick in the comments, he's dropping a lot of knowledge. I think it's easy to take a snapshot in time and get really worked up.
Yeah.
But, especially for people who've been in this so I said too cold to ship. That's something we absolutely run into in Iowa. So maybe people are, sales are slower around this time of year. For us, we try to make that last push for sales because we can ship out for another maybe month or two.
Yeah.
And then another thing is that this is just one snapshot in time, and it's not like the ball python market hasn't seen this before. It's cyclical. It happens. It goes into this really big boom phase, and then there's a bust every once in a while. And I think it's just the nature of a correction in the market. So for people who've been in it long enough, they're not worried at all. For people who are pandemic breeders that just got into it, Some of them are worried and they're flaking out, which is fine because that's all part of the process. And then there are others that are just getting more strategic with their operations. And even though it feels like it's a tighter market, I think there's a lot of benefit that always comes from a correction. There's no need to fret over it. There's a lot of very beneficial things that come from it. And so I'm very optimistic about the ball python market forever, basically, because I've been keeping snakes for a long time. So even though I haven't been part of the selling aspect of ball pythons this entire time, I've watched the market go up and down. And I know that there's some breeders that have been in it for over 20 years, over 30 years, that they make it through and they adapt. And that's just what you have to do. You adapt, you figure out which makes most sense for you.
Yeah, that's right. And to me, it's the fun part. Like, it's not fun if I was in a position wondering how I was going to keep the lights on and if I was going to be broke or not. But aside from that, that's the fun part. Waking up going, all right, what new thing I'm going to try one new thing today to reach one new customer. And that's been a crazy, I mean, I've been averaging a snake every other day kind of thing and it's like, wait a minute, if I could do that in this hard time, I'll, so it's been an interesting time. I have found, I was working through the Great Recession. I was about you all's age in the recession of the very early 2000s. Things come and go. Keep food on your plate. Keep your head in the game. If you don't believe that an industry can survive the recession, then yeah, you got to get the hell out. Otherwise, keep your practices solid. Keep your vision grand. Keep your vision bigger than this moment and bigger than this season. Like Rick's exactly right. I remember last year going, I don't even know why I bother selling right now because everybody's so competitive and racing to the bottom. I remember being like, wait a minute, once all the Black Friday sales cleared out, the prices went like back up. Now that's a one-time sample. I'm going to watch it again this year. But that was kind of my one-time sample on that. So
there's so many comments coming through right now that just absolutely make me smile because a lot of people are optimistic and they have the right mindset, in my opinion. But Ken from Primal Scale said, hate to see anyone fail, but I'm excited about the market cleanse. I'm like, yeah, I'm in that same boat. I really hate to see anybody fail, but it's just a necessary part of this. Leviathan snakes, so strong marketing presence can generate the demand that can pull a brand through a soul market. Absolutely. And so it's just like a lot of different perspectives bringing in, and they just went off on the comments all at the same time.
I have to tell you, I got to like gush for a minute. I call it a community, man. The audience in this show so far exceeds my level of insight, expertise. It's like a masterclass for me, both from the guests, but also what goes on over here. And it's a place of gratitude where I'm both humbled and thankful. And then I'm learning from the best week in and week out. Like I'd be dumb not to show up, but screw the promo, screw any few advertising dollars I get from YouTube and that. This knowledge is phenomenal and I really appreciate it. And again, these folks showing up week in and week out is what gives me the leverage to go to bigger companies or even have the guts to. That was one of my things one of the days. All right, what am I going to try new to forward my company? I'm going to email 5 companies that I think are related to the industry that I should be involved with. And boom, there it is, man. It was much harder than boom, there it is. But it happened is what I'm saying. So I'm pumped about that stuff. Those of y'all that are either just joining or late joining, Redline Shipping, this will be an ongoing partnership, sponsorship. On my end, I get to ship to consumers much cheaper, and I pass on the savings to everybody on you all's end in the audience. $5 off, try them out, give them a shot. Pat earlier said that just flatline comparative shopping right now, it's $2 to $12 less of label shipping than the other big players. Throw another $5 on top of that, you're talking a good portion of a snake, or hey, there's a 6-pack you can enjoy that maybe you weren't going to. Whatever you save your money for, there you go. So I'm very proud and I'm a believer in Redline. Any company I approached was because I believe in them. It wasn't like, hey, let me approach 5 shipping companies. Absolutely not. They are the only one swear to God, on my family and everything on this brand. That is how that went. I got a couple quick fire questions for you because we could talk all night. Audience, if you got any more quick fire ones, let's get them in. Let's get going. You all said last year you got a 75% conversion rate. You bred 40, you got 30 clutches.
Yeah.
Are you using ultrasound, or are you just doing it visually?
Yeah.
So this past season, we just did it visually. And so part of that is based off of just the sheer number of locks that we had. Part of it is based off of watching female behavior and knowing when's the right time. And then also taking advantage of the knowledge that with change in barometric pressure, whether that be a rainstorm, snowstorm, weather changes, that also often incentivizes the snakes to lock for whatever reason. So we had a pretty good success rate that time around. We also had a lot of very mature females. This upcoming season, it'll be a lot of newer females. So a lot of the first clutch. So we did actually just pull the trigger on an ultrasound, and we are going to try to utilize that.
Okay.
It's going to be a big learning curve, but we already know that.
Right.
But,
I'm right there with
our
you.
Strategy, and if we end up with, like I said, we're not trying to make ball python money our sole income source. So if we end up with 5 clutches only, that's fine. It'll be a very big learning experience, and then those 5 clutches will be very potent, a lot of holdbacks for us anyway. So we're just trying to build from that perspective, kind of go maintenance phase, not necessarily feel like we have to go crazy on sales next year, just go maintenance phase. And then once we hit a point where ball python market, the customers are flooding to you again, we will hopefully be at a comfortable enough place where we're producing stuff that we're very proud of.
Yeah, I think you will be. I mean, and again, it's a different perspective for me. We've talked about it, that ad nauseum. So having that other opportunity of income, career choices, pursuits, and all that is a great balance. I gotta say, hey, this is a really quick, cool story. Ball Python Love. That's a guy named Dave out in Reno, I believe. Certainly. He always got on me. If I don't know, to this day, I don't know if it's Nevada or Nevada. Anyhow, he always gets on me about how I mispronounce it. Several years ago now, Dave had a show with a guy named Josue, and they had a reptile show. And they were the very, very first people that ever had me on their show, long before I had my own channel, long before I had my own show. And Dave, I've always appreciated it. I love when I see you stopping by. It's been a while, man. So I hope that you're doing all right. I hope your family's well, dude. And of course, I hope the animals are well. But thanks for saying, hey, thanks for stopping by. Jace, I see somehow the Facebook algorithm figured out that we know each other, and I saw a picture of you playing guitar. Will you play? You play music? You perform outside? What's your music scene like?
I used to do a bunch back when I was in school. I would just be part of music programs, and then I've been playing guitar probably ever since I've been keeping snakes, but I'm not great at it. It's just like a side hobby for me. I enjoy it a lot. I'm not the best guitar player, but I can definitely accompany myself. I love to sing. Singing
okay, cool.
My forte out of the two, but yeah. So I play a little guitar, I sing, and Josh sings too, but he's not public with it. So
do you guys ever gig or go out or open mics or anything?
Not publicly. We go to parties or whatever.
Yeah, we have a couple people we know that have speakers set up in their garage, so we'll go do that, jam out, and stuff like that. But
yeah,
we enjoy it.
Nice. Well, it caught my attention. I mean, I think I know we were talking about it earlier. For the others in the audience might not know, I usually have one sitting right there. It's over there. But I play guitar professionally as well. Another opportunity to plug. If you're going to be in Jacksonville this weekend for Florida Georgia festivities, I'll be at Finn McCool's Friday night, 8 to 11, and then Saturday night at the Fly's Thai Irish Pub, 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Spade McQuaid and the All-Stars. Your shirts, very cool shirts. Can anybody print those? You got a special relationship? Is there a box to check on Morph Market? What do you do for those shirts?
Yeah, so this is one of the times where a lot of time spent kind of facilitating or orchestrating a connection and networking has paid off. So the first time we went to a show and saw Morph Market there, we started talking with John Lehman, and we just...
He's great, isn't he?
Yep, he's an awesome guy.
Genius, dude, yeah.
Yep. So over the past few years, anytime we see him, we chat for a while, just about a lot of different things. We try to provide valuable feedback from our user experience on Morph Market. And so that kind of panned out to this. I think anybody potentially could get that co-branding opportunity. A lot of it, I think, does come down to having a relationship to them. If you want to reach out to them, you can. They have an email.
They have like requirements on their site,
but they have requirements of things. So you have to have a certain amount of positive reviews on your page. In the breeding game for X amount of time. Just have a good reputation, because it is their brand going on the shirt as well.
That's right.
So they want to make sure that they're partnering with people that they think will be a good fit for the long term.
John is one of the most impressive people I've met. It struck me. I met him the first time at Daytona last year, 2021. He buys a table. He gets his name. He gets the Morph Market associated with Daytona. Fine. We all want that. We can all buy a table. He buys a table just to get customer feedback, just for people to tell him how to do his business. Like,
that
is
he
like
a book in hand always.
And he's super engaged. Yeah, he's not just BSing you, giving you FaceTime, nodding. He is engaged. My 9-year-old son, he wanted to know what Charlie thought, because Charlie's mind is the one that he's going to be trying to engage in 5 years. So it was just a good lesson in take your customers' feedback, give the customers what they want, find a way to reach your customers. And he's a down-to-earth guy. We message on, matter of fact, of all things, on Facebook Messenger. We message. He'll be on the show eventually. Great guy, really, really impressive to meet and to work with and learn from. All right, we'll do this one more deep question, and then we will do our big wrap up for the night. This is Steven at Leviathan Snakes. I hope everybody knows Steven. Speaking of good friends and great minds in the industry, Steven has a marketing background. If you want to know where he's coming from here, he says, and I don't know how much you guys want to talk about this or how proprietary it is. So you call the shots here. Awesome show tonight, guys. Quick question. What is the next major reptile goal that you are super excited to accomplish and are close to completing?
So I can't really go into a lot of detail just yet, but me personally, I got a really good opportunity within the ball python industry, and I'm going to be taking a position at a very reputable company. But more to come on that soon, and that's going to impact our collection.
So that is also a big factor into what has gone into our downsizing, is that the structure of our company is going to be changing temporarily. We don't know how long. So we are still working out those details and don't want to say too much until those details are worked out. But once we have more progress on that, that'll be a very exciting big change. It'll be Josh's first opportunity to move away from home and see the real world for himself, not with Big Brother by his side. He does fine. He's taught me so much, but it's just he's the one who took some big initiative and is pursuing this. And so that's a really big thing for us both. And like I said, there'll be more details as stuff kind of pans out.
As soon as we can, we want to let you guys know for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And then for me, my big major goal, it's still a partnership goal. Mm-hmm. We have a pair of double het monsoon clowns that hopefully will be going this year. So that'll be our leap into the monsoon and really clown project.
Clowns, yeah.
If we're able to hit a clutch from them this year. If they don't go, then we'll shoot for it the year after. But that's going to be something that's really exciting for us to try to produce.
So yeah, finally starting to hit some of the high-end projects that we've been fantasizing about for the last couple of years, for sure.
Yeah. And this is I say it all the time, man, this industry teaches patience, and that is not my normal thing. You gonna show one off?
Yeah, for sure.
Not the monsoon stuff. Just a couple of things that we've hit this year that are super exciting visually.
All right.
Yeah, those monsoons are just hats. Nothing exciting.
They're not super exciting yet. I got to figure out where everything is. Okay.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
This one's a really neat one. Talk about it a little bit.
So it's a theoretical idea on this one, but this one's super cool. We're calling it an orange stream calico Enchi cinnamon pinstripe. I'll try and get his head into the camera a little bit. Wow. Visually, it's probably one of the coolest that we produced this year, and
the whites are coming in really nice on its sides right there. And
then
it's Not really focusing. Sorry, guys. And then another snake for the camera not to focus on is his sister right here. It is an Enchi sugar. So not super crazy high end, but visually
We
really
love
nice.
our sugar calico stuff.
And then we also have
Pastel.
What rack size is that you're pulling from right now?
So that's the 65 size.
6510.
6510.
That's 1065. Okay.
1065, yeah. This is probably the coolest DG that we produced this year. We had one clutch where we had visual DGs. So this one's going over to Thailand here in a couple months.
Oh, congratulations.
Super pastel, pastel GHI Desert Ghost.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
The DG gets cleaner with every shed. So
yeah,
that was a really neat one to
get a better angle while you're pulling out the next one.
Yeah, it's electric, man. That's fantastic.
And this one's not as visually exciting because it's not as bright, but that's our GHI DG. And we had a goal of hitting some darker Desert Ghost stuff. We think that is a direction that not enough people are working on. And
right.
I love the dark stuff, but we also love how clean and bright DG can make things. So that compared to a normal GHI, that's a pretty drastic difference.
Yeah, that's like a light bulb inside of the thing, man. It is. That's fantastic. I agree on the dark stuff. I'm doing that with my hypo stuff now, which is not Desert Ghost.
Yeah.
Same thought on the hypo.
Here's the last couple of things I'm going to show you. There's two here that are going to absolutely light me up because they are puzzles.
Oh, you about to do a fist bump?
Okay, we're going to avoid another bite like that, but cinnamon interacts super well with puzzle.
Wow.
And, so it just creates this really nice looking snake. The alien heads are all connected together and there's some white outlining on there.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to very carefully switch to this one.
Yeah. Watch your face. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. This is a female pewter, and we have her listed for sale, but we are not going to be too upset if she doesn't end up selling.
Right.
And she has some really cool, pewter puzzle. So this is, she's going to bite me. Sorry, guys. I'm getting distracted because I know I'm going to get bit.
Yeah.
She has some really cool pixelation happening on the tail here. I don't know if we're going to be able to. Yeah, you can kind of see that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there it is.
And then obviously the same kind of stuff that's happening with the cinnamon. You get the white outlining in there. Those are definitely some of their. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Well, I wasn't even looking.
We'll have to watch that one.
Probably better.
Maybe we can do like a head bumping.
Yeah, so those are some of our most exciting hatchlings that we've produced this year. That visually exciting anyway. We have a bunch of stuff that are building blocks that we're excited about, but they don't look super cool.
Yeah.
Those ones they just look super cool. So
man, guys, congratulations on everything. I could talk with you all night. I like that you're on the show twice a year, man. We got to keep this up, and we got to do this in person. We got to cross at one of these shows. How we haven't yet, I'm not sure how, but I could talk all night. But I always commit to a content-packed show, and I think we've done that. I think we've delivered it. Audience, thank y'all so much. We got over 50 of y'all still almost 2 hours in, which is great. We were up above 70 at one point. Big thanks to Redline Shipping. Guys, check them out. Forget any advertising for just a minute. I swear to God, I think the experience is better. I think the insurance is better. I think it works better on the computer, and it's a better price. Plus, you can get an extra $5 off, and all of my animals will ship with Redline so that I could pass on value to you as my customers. And I'm happy to be able to say that. And you all sticking around, having 50 people on a show, have allowed me to leverage the Proper Royals brand to be able to do that. I'm so thankful. Next week, we got Stone Age ball pythons coming from Portland, maybe not Portland, certainly from Oregon. I have to check the city. Stone Age ball pythons. Stone Age is the one that has 48,000 followers on Instagram. I got to learn who these guys are too. Stone Age ball pythons. We got Rashad from 212 Exotics, and then as you can imagine, if I've gotten advertising and partnerships going, I've been reaching out to a lot of cool people. Sit tight on that. I think that's it. I think I'm going to hit the music, and I think we're going to get out of here and keep it under 2 hours because
fair enough.
because that's what we do. Gentlemen,
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, man.
Pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for making the time. Sit tight for just a moment. And I'm going to, like I say, I'm going to hit the music. And audience, thanks so much. I'll see you guys next time. Yeah, I just got to push the button. I'll yammer on. See ya.
Good night, everyone.